Whatever you want.
Hello, is it working? Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
Closer.
Closer? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more used to karaoke, so this is why I need to. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I'm super happy to see so many faces tonight. Thank you as well to N26, who is hosting us, and thank you to you, Bora, who made it possible tonight.
My pleasure.
So my name is Sarah. I'm organizing this kind of events every month to have a space for the Barcelona product community to have some inspiring chats, conversations with inspiring people, and as well to have some very practical tips. So this is what we are going to have tonight. Before to deep dive, maybe some very practical information. The areas over there are restricted, so please don't go there. Stay with us. It will be fun. And then we will have some drinks and pizzas. So after the talk, so stay with us to keep going with the conversations.
Yeah, one more thing. If you need to use the bathrooms, it is right outside. It's either on the right or left side. The problem is that once you are out, you're not going to be able to get back in. So my colleague is over here. She's going to be attentive. If somebody is out, she's going to let them in. So.
So tonight we are giving the mics to the product operations teams. They are often misunderstood, invisible, or even they don't exist. So this is a very good moment to shine, to explain what you are doing, and for you to have very concrete tips, concrete explanation of what they are doing, what you could do in your company if you are a product operations, what you should say to your boss tomorrow morning when you go back to the office. And yes, so to talk about this topic, we have three fantastic speakers today with three different visions, three different daily jobs. We have Katie. Katie from Yazio. This is a B2B fast scaling company. I don't know if you want to share some words about you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie. I'm originally from Canada, but I've been living in Barcelona for the last 7 years. I've been working in product operations for the last 5-ish years. I have a background in partnerships, working primarily in e-commerce, and then sort of made my switch into product operations, which we can talk about a little bit later. I work at Yazio. I just started at the beginning of June, so it's new, which is exciting. And Yazio is a food tracking app. So we help users all around the world. We have over 100 million users now, which is really exciting. And so building really great nutrition habits. And so if you've never heard of it, you should check it out. And yeah, excited to be here. Thank you.
Then we have Camille from FCTG, a big company trying to switch towards a product culture. So Camille, can you tell us a bit more about you?
Yeah, so I'm French. You'll notice my accent. I've landed in Barcelona 5 years ago to work for Flight Center. It's a business travel company. I've joined the product team as a quality analyst first. And 2.5 years ago, Sarah decided to create the product operations team in this company. Yeah, because we work together. And yeah, so I created the team with Sarah since 2.5 years ago now, and we are 2 in the team at the moment. And yeah, our main challenge is to make it scale and make it great.
Good. And we have Bora from N26. I don't know if we need to present you or
a little bit, no? So my name is Bora. I'm originally from Turkey, but I've been here for the last 12 years in Barcelona. My background has nothing to do with product or operations. I'm coming from event operations. So 20 years I've done that for huge events like congresses, Formula Ones, so on and so forth. In the last 3 years, I've been over here in N26 with the PTX operations team, and I'm leading a team called Core Operations. We are currently 6 people in the team, and our day-to-day job literally navigating the chaos. and trying to make sense out of data and trying to align people as much as we can and trying to align the rest of the organization with the product tech and UX teams as much as possible. So welcome again.
Thank you, Bora. And so we have the opportunity to present ourselves. So maybe it's time to present yourselves as well. So we have a little presentation to know more about you. We have a survey just to know where you're from, who you are, and then we will have something a bit fun to turn it more interactive. And we are going to play product operations bingo to be sure to talk about what you want to talk about and to answer your questions. So please join this survey just to tell us what is your current role, if you are product operations or not at all. Hello. We were almost waiting for you. So I was saying that we have a survey, just a live survey to better know you and to understand if you are from product operation or not at all. Other, okay. Yes, maybe we can switch totally the title of the meetup. Okay, did you have time to check in? Cool. So you are as well other. We have product operations revealing themselves. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Okay, more product managers. Okay. So we have 1 people out of 2 for product operation, and the others you are out from this this world. Can you answer the second question to know if you worked already with product operations, please? Okay. Okay. It's super stressing. Okay, so we have 1 person out of 3 that is more or less comfortable with product operation. For the rest of the people, you will have more information. You will be expert in product operation at the end of the meetup, hopefully. So yeah, thank you very much for answering. And then this is time to play bingo and to know about what you want to talk about. So you have a list of topics. Please pick 3 of them and just tell us what you want to talk about. So we will be sure to be the most relevant as possible. I guess we will see it live as well changing depending on the topics. Yeah, cool. This is intense. Yeah. So let's wait 2 minutes just to be sure that everyone can say their words. Okay. Okay. So I think we have some hot topics today, but processes, tools and systems, metrics. I think this is the top 3. No worries, we will have time at the end of the meetup after the bingo for a Q&A session. So if you will have the space to ask all your questions. So maybe let's start with processes. Do any of you want?
Okay, so we can talk about processes. The question is, what kind of an environment you guys are working, right? The processes depends from obviously company to company. For example, as N26, we are a process-heavy company because it's a bank. It needs to have processes, and all of those processes are interconnected. Now, where product operations comes in over here, in our reality, we don't deal with the processes directly. What we deal with though is to how we identify ownership of these processes, how we can make sure those ownerships, because those processes are usually attached, because we are a tech company, to a microservice. Who owns this microservice? Who is the product manager? Who is the engineering manager? Which team leads it? What dependencies these microprocesses has? So basically our job over here as a product operations, and again, I'm pretty sure this is going to change for everyone, has nothing to do with the design of the process or how the process works. It's more around the ownership of the process, and it's around the organization and the communication and the knowledge management part of it. Basically, the most important thing in a company, and especially in a big company, N26 is like 1,500 people as of today. And obviously, when you're asking for example, anti-money laundering sub-process something, there is no way a regular engineer is going to figure out where that process is, how it's connected to other things, or what it is. The operations job is basically to know and guide people as much as possible. Again, we are not 100% fully. This is not our mandate. It's not in our job descriptions. I was just saying I don't even have a job description, but we somehow know and connect people. This is how, in my reality, the processes works with the operations, product operations.
And you're talking about job descriptions. Maybe we can do a little round table just to have your definition of product operations, your vision within your point of view within your company. But can you tell us a bit, what is the definition of your team for your company?
So I want to preface this because something you're going to realize quite quickly, and maybe the people who are already working in product operations might be aware, but product ops is a relatively new craft within the tech industry. I would say within the last like 5 to 7 years, which in tech is pretty new. And it's sort of like the last frontier of operations crafts, right? So you have sales ops, marketing ops, and DevOps, right? But product ops is sort of that like last operations craft that has really sort of taken off. And what you'll very quickly notice is that everyone will have a different flavor of product operations, right? So there's pros and cons to that, is because it's relatively new, which means there's so many different ways that you can define product ops, which is really cool because then it's very malleable for every company, which I think is an advantage. The disadvantage of that is like, well, what the hell do we actually do, right? It's really hard to standardize, much like a product manager or a designer. So you'll notice as we start to explain what the hell we do, it's going to be very different. And we sort of set it up purposely so you can get 3 very distinct and unique perspectives, what the world or what our worlds of product operations looks like. Like you'll soon see, not to steal your thunder, but it's like Bora doesn't even like to call it product operations. So you'll quickly hear that. Anyways, so product operations in my world is very much surrounded by setting the operating rhythm of the product organization, which for me consists of product managers, designers, and engineers, right? So that has everything to do with planning and strategy, the rituals and processes that we have, how are we making decisions, how are we setting goals, and ultimately, how are we being connected to the rest of the company? So I find that product operations, one of our strengths is often that we are also the connective tissue across the company, right? So we're the connective tissue not only in between the different product teams, so product designers and engineering, but then also to marketing, to finance, to legal, in my last company, to the sales team, right? So we sort of are this like bird's eye view of many different aspects of the company and sort of foreseeing like when two different people are probably working on the same thing and they might not know that they're also working on the same thing, is like to be that connector, right? So I like to use the analogy that I'm like a conductor of an orchestra and like trying to make sweet music and being like, okay, you need to play and now you play and we all play together. And it's like, how do we sort of organize and keep everyone on the same rhythm? And then one of the pieces, as well as I saw that process is like a hot topic, right? And I feel like process can be a dirty word sometimes because ops people are seen as like, oh, the process people and like the change makers and stuff. And one of the key parts of my role specifically as the company I'm working for now is in its next era of growth and we're trying to scale, is like, how do we keep that consistency between teams or specifically the squads that we have so that as we scale, we can scale consistently across the teams and we're not having like the wild, wild west where like team A is doing something and team B is doing something completely different. We're trying to like herd the cats, you know, and just like make sure everyone's following at least the same sort of boundaries in which they operate in. So that's my day-to-day world.
Yes, so my day-to-day world at FCM would be, so FCM Flight Center, sorry. So we are making the bridge between the users and the product managers. So this is how the team was created. We saw that product managers were often unfocused of their core duties, discovery and delivery. So we took aside all linked processes and workflows like feedback management or release management, and we took it in our scope as product ops. So this is the why the team was created. And today we are really trying to represent in the tech teams the user voices and reverse. So on the user side, we are expressing the tech products, but in a way that the users understand. Because as we are a travel agency, our product teams are building products and mostly for the travel agents. So we need to have operational skills, understand how the travel agents are working, and then transferring the product knowledge into those travel agents team. This is basically what we do.
And you were talking about paella. We can see
yeah.
in your back about paella. You are
Yeah.
not a cooker.
That's the analogy I like to give, just to explain easily, for example, to my parents what I'm doing every day. So in our product and tech team, we have product managers. They choose the ingredients. We have the devs cooking. The QAs are critics, and we are the waiters. So bringing the good food to the customers, users in our case.
And you, Bora, what are you cooking at N26?
It's actually interesting to hear because Katie was just talking about she's aligning, trying to be the connectivity tissue between the PMs and the EMs and the UXers. You were talking about more customers and the product. We have nothing to do with the customers. We are serving, yes, we are part of the product tech and UX teams, which is a 700 people team, but my team is mostly trying to align the finance, the HR, the legal, the risk with the PTX, trying to kind of like create this transparency in between, as well as handling the internal communications of the entire product tech and UX so that they know what's cooking, what's coming, what changed in the roadmap, what is the priority changes, what ELT wants to, the executive leadership team wants to do, what crazy ideas they came up with. So it is interesting, really. But in a sense, my team doesn't do product operations, as Katie was saying. I don't really like to call it product operations because the dictionary definition of it doesn't really suit us. We don't do product analytics. We don't go and directly affect our team's roadmaps, or we don't deal with their cadences or sprints, or we don't arrange things for them, right? They work on their own way. What we try to do is kind of like, what you have organized is readable and communicatable to the rest of the organization, and then everybody understands the same way. This is what basically my team is trying to do, and this is basically what we are trying to achieve.
So we can understand that your mission is super different depending on your company. but maybe the common point is about filling the gaps and to connect people at the right moment on the right things. And to go back to the hottest topic, so maybe this is as well a common point to the three of you. You are creating processes or making them enforced, right?
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of process, again, one thing that ops people get a bad rep for is that we come in and we make things difficult, right? Because we're implementing new process and we're being the change makers and stuff, and that can be really hard. And so I think an important thing to remember is, in like my own philosophy of product operations, that my ultimate goal is to try to make my customer, who is the product manager, the engineer, the designer, like my ultimate goal is to make their lives easier. So everything that I'm designing, everything that I'm trying to build is with them in mind, so that they can focus on what they do best, which is build product, which is write code, which is design beautiful products, right? And so my philosophy around that is like, if I'm adding something, I want to also look at what I can actually remove, adjust, or change, because my big focus right now is like, as we're trying to scale and grow, if you're constantly adding and you're creating like a snowball effect, it's just going to get messy later. And it's going to be so difficult to try to undo what you're trying to do now later as you're like a bigger team. So it's really important, at least for me, that I'm trying to tell myself every day, anything that I'm building, what can we potentially change that already exists or remove? But then also, like, how is this going to scale? That's always a question that I'm consistently asking myself, is like, how is this going to scale as we start to aggressively hire, to have more squads, to have bigger verticals or whatever? That's a really, really important thing to do as you're a product ops person. Because if you don't, then things are going to get really, really messy. And then a lot of people are going to get really pissed off. And then it's going to be more difficult for them to do their job. And it's just going to get really, really messy. So.
Yeah, so in our team, we're as well responsible to create some product-oriented processes. And the goal is to either create them from scratch, either update the one existing for them to scale and to match with the current state of the products. And our goal after is to make them clear enough so that all the assignee or everyone using those processes are understanding them. So it's not just writing Notion pages and sharing them. It's about expressing them and giving them the tool to use correctly those processes. And one that I have in my head I'm working on at the moment is the feedback management. How do we make the product team and developers as well working on the user feedbacks? It's a big gap that we have today. We are trying to improve. And so we needed persons on the user side to bring those feedbacks into a database, for example, expressing them correctly so that the product managers can work on them after. And our role as product ops were to find the correct tool. So it was like doing a discovery with all the representatives of the users, and then the tool for them to access that feedback live so that they can see what has been logged in by different markets, by other representatives. And then we organize once we've categorized those feedbacks, we organize meeting with the representatives of the users and the product managers, and we make them align on decision. So the whole flow is like we have state per step, and the feedbacks are correctly included in the product's backlogs.
So I have the feeling that Katie and Camille, you are at the service of the product teams, like helping them a bit like guardian angels, rather than you, Bora, you are more like a policeman whipping people, no?
You can say that. I mean, they have a very interesting relationship with us, kind of a hate and love kind of a relationship. But I mean, again, it's very interesting, right? Two different areas, two different ways of approaching processes. When it comes to me, the craziest thing that I remember that I've done with the processes was, and Marielle, you were not here, I believe, at that point, was that we moved from HOPEX to ServiceNow. And during the migration, we have over 700 process diagrams, and they are massive, and all of them broke, like gone. So what my team did was like, okay, sure, we have 2 weeks. We'll redraw them for you. Basically, we came in as a support function, right? We do create processes, obviously, for reporting purposes. We do project capitalization, which is a financial process. We designed it. We came up with the reporting process and everything and all that. Headcount, which is basically because 700 teams, 700 people, 115 teams, people moving all over the place. People are serving more than one team. We needed a good capacity planning tool. We created the system and everything and all that, but that doesn't count towards the product processes, right? We are more of a support function when it comes to process part.
And maybe we can switch to the second topic tonight. How, like you were mentioning Notion, you were mentioning designing process, etc. How do you do it concretely? What are your tools? What are your systems? How do you do?
Yeah, so I'm really excited that my new company uses Notion. So I have actually a former coworker. Him and I worked at PandaDoc previously together, and every company has different systems, and they were using 𝗁𝗄𝗏, which was like a very chaotic setup of it, and a little mixture of Google Docs and other things. But the company that I'm working at now, Yazio, uses Notion extremely well. It's very organized. It's like the truth of source for all final documentation and how you navigate it, and outlining final processes, where Google Docs is used as like things in motion, works in process, strategy documents that aren't refined but are looking for feedback, which I really like. And then we're using Jira and Jira Product Discovery for our road mapping and the collaboration between our product managers, designers, and then the engineers. And then Slack is a huge communication tool. We don't really use email at all. Like, it's all Slack, and it's very open and transparent, which is like a little jarring at first because everything is done in public channels. Like, they're really against like private channels or DMs, which is sort of interesting. And so you just like, if you have a question, you put it in like an open channel, you just tag the people you need, but everyone in the company can see it, which is sort of like, whoa. But it's only a 100-person company, so it's fairly small than what I've worked at previously, which is great. And outside of that, and Figma. So Figma for design, FigJam for whiteboarding, and Loom. Loom is our other popular tool, which I love. It's really great for async comms. And I would say that those are like our standard daily tools that we're using. If I am inspired by any of these, I'll probably think of a couple more, but those are the ones that come to my head.
For me, maybe I can ask, but do you do anything about the maintenance of those?
I mean, for some tooling management, yes, for like users. So like Loom, Jira, Notion, no, that's managed by someone else. In my last role, in my last company at PandaDoc, I was responsible for all tooling budgets, tooling negotiations, tooling users, like admin of tools. Like it was a whole job in and of itself. But now there's like different people responsible for that in my new role, which I'm like, that's great. So I can focus more on like strategic stuff, which is cool.
Yeah. What is your toolkit for you?
Yeah. So Notion too. Inside the product and devs team at least. So we have our product database, product knowledge, and all wikis in Notion. The goal now and the challenge at the same time is to get all our users, or at least their representative, using Notion too. So we're working on this, but not everyone has access to Notion today. We're trying to get everyone in it. But yeah, very practical to maintain, to create everything, even for processes. Create processes within Notion now is a piece of cake with, I don't know if you know mermaid diagrams, but this thing is amazing to create a process from text-based. You don't have to drag and drop any shapes. You just write lines, relationships, and hop, you have your beautiful diagram. So yeah, I love Notion for those integrations too. Even for our roadmaps, we're using Notion. Our backlog as product ops is in Notion, and the product managers have Notion as well for their product specifications. We're doing a bit of support as well on tools. So we are using Salesforce. We receive the cases inside Salesforce and we treat them inside Salesforce too. What else do we have?
I need to mention that this event is not sponsored by Notion.
No. Yeah. Yeah, our main communication channel is Slack for the product and dev teams. Outside, we have Teams. But yeah, mostly Notion.
Interesting. For an online bank now, I feel like we are low techie. We are a big Atlassian spender. Confluence and Jira is the biggest tool that we use. As the operations team, Jira and Confluence is basically our day-to-day. Just because of the product roadmap alignments, trying to make sense out of Jira. Maybe just to give you a little bit of an example, that N26 went through a hyper growth from 300 people to 1,500 people. Obviously, it did not scale well. As a result, that Jira was, and still is a mess. So this is the operations, for example, deals mostly. But at the same time, we are trying to, because these are our main tools for especially project management to product management, what we try to do is kind of like educate our PMs, our UXers, our engineers, how to use them efficiently. Because for them, creating a ticket is just a ticket. But then how do you maintain that ticket? How do you make the relationship between them? What is the dependency? How can you show this? How can we actually visualize this when somebody asks? So again, more of a support function when it comes to tools. Communication is usually Google Suite, and so GChat. We used to have Slack, turned out to be non-compliant for many things. So we had to cut that down. That was a big drama. We do have Loom, but we are not really using it. That's an interesting one. I would love to see, but we have an intranet. So this is our, yeah, I know. But we have an intranet from Salesforce. I don't know why. But other than that, as a product tech and UX teams, I believe last time I checked, we had over 120 tools currently that N26 uses for various different reasons. So yeah, but as a product team, we use a handful of them.
And do you have some secret tips just to be sure that the teams are using well the tools, like you were mentioning Jira, etc.? How do you ensure that we are keep using the tool in the right direction, in the right way? Like, do you have like some documentation, some meetings?
We try. I mean, there are obviously documentations and all that. The problem is that who is reading it or who is not reading it, right? You can have as much as documentation you want. You can create all these beautiful texts and graphics and everything. The problem is that how you're getting this across to the teams, and how do you convince them of value of it? Following that is going to bring them value. So that's our main challenge. It's not the guidelines, it's not the creating these things. We have them and we are constantly improving them and so on and so forth. But the challenge is why? Who is going to take that on, and who's going to read it, and who's going to understand it?
Maybe Katie or Camille, do you have some very practical advice to help people to make the documentation read, to enforce the processes, respect them?
Yeah, I think to Bora's point, you can spend a lot of time on an amazing strategy doc, guidelines, Notion pages, and you can be like, ah, chef's kiss, it's beautiful. And no one will read it, let alone follow it, right? Like, one of the hardest parts of our job is about behavior change and influence. Like, that is, if you're getting into product ops, if you're already working in product ops, like, one of the best things that you can really focus on as a soft skill is influence. And the influence that you have not only with your leadership, your team members, right? And the people that you're working with day to day, because ultimately you are designing things to enable a behavior change, right? In terms of process, in terms of how decisions are made, how goals are set or whatever. So I think a really important thing is like, don't assume that people are going to read your documents. That's number one. Number two, tell people the same thing more than once in different channels and different mediums, right? So don't think a Slack message is enough in one channel. Don't think an email, if your company uses it, is enough. Don't think that one message during an all hands is enough. Like, it seems repetitive, but I promise you, someone's going to be on vacation. Someone's going to be sick. Someone's not going to be paying attention, right? Someone's going to be like checking Slack while they're supposed to be listening to a meeting, whatever. We all do it. We're all guilty. It's fine. So those are like two really, really critical things, is like repeat the same thing in multiple places. And the other thing that I noticed in the last company I worked for is that, especially with Jira is always a hot topic, right? Like who's responsible for Jira? People are laughing because you all know. So it's like, is it the engineering manager's responsibility? Is it the PM? Is it a mix of both? Who does what? And I found there was like an aha moment that I had where I was like, Jira is a mess. Why is it a mess? Because the engineers are like, no, this is the product's responsibility. And then I talked to the product team. They're like, no, the engineers update that. And I was like, that's the difficulty. There's like finger pointing happening, and there's assumptions being made that so-and-so is updating this, when in reality, no one's doing it. So I find that as boring as they are and as like basic as they are, like 𝗏𝗍 metrics really, really help, right? So who's responsible, who's accountable, who's contributing, and who's informed. They're such a pain in the ass to like actually put together, but I promise you, if you have a reference point and you're clearly calling out like so-and-so is responsible for maintaining the backlog and so-and-so is updating the roadmap here, you have to set those expectations, because if you don't, and you don't communicate them often and remind people, especially when like newcomers come, then no one's going to do it. And then you're going to get into a mess where your Jira is just a dumpster fire. Been there, seen it. It's awful. So.
And you, Camille, yes, do you have a magical recipe?
And it's not magical, and I think you've said it, but if someone asks you a question on a document you've already shared, present, and you have it, you've shared it with them, just redirect the person to this document. You answer nicely the question, of course, but you can just add the link or the PDF attached, saying all your answers are already written here. And I think repeating helps a lot.
So you're guardian angels, policemen, but as well teachers, repeating. So many caps. Yes, anything else to add about tool system before we are switching to metrics, KPIs?
Are there any questions?
Yeah, if you have any question, feel free to raise your hand and to enter it. Yeah. Just hold on, you will have the mic.
Hello. Yes. Hi. Hi. Nice to meet you all. And thank you for organizing this event. I guess my question is to all of you, but it's basically something that you mentioned, Katie. It's about the influence, right? Especially if product ops is, let's say, this new way of a new craft, right? New way of doing things. Or if you're new to your company in a product ops role, how do you influence without being that pain in the butt that is like, oh my God, this person is brand new to the company, brand new to the key team, and they want to change everything. Now, how, especially if there's like, you see this mess in documentation, how do you organize your stakeholders without getting into anyone's nerves?
That's a great question. Also a very fine balance of like, how do I not be annoying, but also be valuable at the same time? So I think if you're starting new, and especially if someone has never worked with product operations, they don't necessarily know what to expect, right? So that can be an advantage to you, because you can be like, I'm about to be your best friend. And so my advice to you would be to do very like, treat it almost like there's a reference in product operations where like product ops is like being a PM for the PMs, right? So the first thing I like to do is just be like a bit of a detective and make and book one-on-one calls with people to really hear them and really be like, tell me what's going wrong. Like, what do you hate about your job right now? What like grinds your gears? What's really annoying? What's holding you back? And just listen. And it's really important to build that trust really early on. And so if they tell you something that is really not going well, and you can be inspired by that to be like, hey, actually, you know what? I can work to fix something. you're not going to fix all of their problems, so don't try. But if there's like 1 or 2 things, and especially if they're like small wins that you can just develop really quickly at the beginning to gain their trust and to say like, hey, sorry, what was your name? Fabi. So be like, hey, Fabi, she really listened to me and then she went and did something about it, right? And if you can build that trust from the beginning, people are going to really start to understand like what products ops is and the value that it has, and that you're somebody that they can trust and come to like basically complain or say like, hey, I'm having these issues, but you're going to do something about it. And that's the best thing that you can do to build that trust. And that is going to be like the key to be able to just repeat as much as possible. And the key thing for me is like when I'm hiring someone, like I want to look for someone who is creative, who loves to solve problems, but is also like a people person. And like I come from a background of partnerships. I don't come from a technical product management background, but my background is working with people and having and building those relationships. And I think it transfers really, really well to product operations. Very similar to you. You worked in operations previously, but like a different kind of operations. But again, that's very people-based and relationships-based, right? And I think that really bodes well to that influence that we're talking about. So I think it's just listening to people, finding those problems, and then getting a couple of quick wins under your belt to really build that trust, and then just like rinse and repeat and go from there, and then try to expand like how big of problems you're taking on and the solutions that you can construct for it.
I actually have something to add because I did completely opposite of it when I started. When I joined to PTX, N26 PTX, I saw a Confluence page only for the PTX, one space, 20,000 pages, never cleaned up, never archived, never updated. And my first task was from my manager was like, this is a mess, fix it. And I was like, how the hell? 700 people. How am I going to find who owns what information? Who owns what guideline? What is it? What do I do? And spent a month strategizing, then realized it's not going to work. Then I said, okay, I'm going to do something. And it's either going to break me or it's going to make me. And I literally just took the initiative, divided the entire space into 21 spaces, created a hub page, hot linked everything over there, separated their content, and then archived everything that is older than 4 years. Nobody ever archived. They hated me for the first 3 months. But then when they were able to find the information, things changed. So you can go that way. You can try to win their trust with the small wins, or you can annoy the shit out of them. But afterwards, they're going to understand that why you did it and how it's helping them. So there are different ways of approaching it. I took the risk. It paid off.
What is your style, Camille, from a people point of view, collaboration?
I don't know. I improvise every time. I do not have any special tips to give. But about tools, I had something to say. So we have a set of tools, and our role, and we try to apply it every day, is to find automations as well, like quick wins, but inside the tools, make them link together, like Slack and Notion. I don't know, like Salesforce and Jira or Azure DevOps, and all those things that we do manually every day, or the product managers. If we can find just a small automation to make everything smoother and running without us checking, it's always a good thing. Like having, I don't know, an alert in Slack when a new feedback is coming in our database, if I stay in my feedback management process. Those things are like improving our daily life as product ops and as product managers as well.
Thank you. Should we switch towards metrics and KPIs? Does anyone want to start to give their vision?
I mean, the question is the metrics and KPIs for the product operations, or metrics and KPIs overall for the product teams?
I guess
Ops, for the ops, it is terrible. It is hard to put a metric or get a KPI on something that is not very measurable, because I mean, in my world, again, we are more of a support function. So what am I going to do? Satisfaction survey? No. I mean, I'm not going to do that. So I did. It didn't work. So what we try to then find in our team is kind of like, okay, what are the pain points for the teams? Let's say, as of today, how many out of due tickets we have in Jira? That much. Okay. We are going to try to go team to team and support them, try to make sure that those are updated. If it's not being updated, why it's not being updated? Try to understand it. If it's a structural problem, or if there's something else going on, or if somebody completely neglected it, what can we do to drop this? And when the audit comes, or because as a bank we are audited heavily, like I don't know, every year 5-6 different entities audits us, on top the local ones. So once we are audited, at least we don't get audit findings. At least we don't have to deal with it later with a bigger consequences and so on and so forth. So for me, I think the most important metric is that everybody that works with us, by the end of it, is happy. But again, there is no way that I can put it on a page with a nice graphic and it shows like, oh, we are going up. No, that's not, I don't know. It doesn't work for me.
I feel you. It's a tricky thing, especially when you want to prove your value, right? And when you work for a tech company, it's always about metrics, right? And I think with product managers, you're so much more easily able to prove your value because you have metrics that you are directly influencing, right? Whether it's daily active users, whether it's retention rates, conversion rates, whatever it might be, or maybe you can directly tie your work to revenue, right? But for a product ops person, that's really difficult to do because again, we are the influencers. So we're very much behind the scenes. So the work that we do is influencing teams, which might have an influence on conversion rate or revenue or whatever, but we can't prove it directly. So I find when I'm looking at like metrics or KPIs for product ops, it's very much usually associated to a particular initiative that I'm doing, right? So for example, right now we're working on a revamp of how we're doing product reviews, and our founder CEO is very much like, we have to be more efficient. We have to be more efficient. I'm like, okay, what does that look like for you? Like also ask them to define what efficiency is, because often they're just like saying a word, but they might not necessarily have a strict definition unless you push them on it. So what I was sort of hinting towards him is like, are you concerned about how much time people are spending preparing for a product review? And he was like, yes. They're wasting too much time. They're like, it's taking them too long to record looms. It's taking too long to put together the documentation that they need. And I was like, okay, cool. So then you look at the overall process for that. How much is required of the teams? What are they expected to present? Do they have a standard template to just help them with like quick prompts so that they can go in and just quickly add in quick notes? Are they allowed to use AI? Like there's all of these different things. I then also discovered that the majority of people using Loom were only on the free account, which means that you only have 5 minutes of recording time, which means that a lot of our product managers and designers were starting and stopping their recording to re-record again because they would run out of time. So a Loom that should have taken them 3 minutes to record is suddenly taking them 45 minutes to record. So what do? We gave everyone paid Loom licenses, and then suddenly we didn't have that problem anymore, right? So it's like there are ways that you can quantify your impact, but I find that it's very like initiative focused, and it's not where you have one metric that you're constantly looking at. I've also spoken to a lot of other product ops people who are maybe more deeply embedded into things like Jira. And then you can start to really track metrics in Jira for like your lead time, like how much time are you spending in discovery? How much time is on like solution design versus delivery? And you can help to reduce that, right? And those are metrics that you can track consistently, but it's very, very dependent on your job and what your scope is within product operations, which as you can see, it can be very wide depending on what company you work for.
I share your point of views because it's the same in my team. We don't have a matrix, or we don't use KPIs except on the support part where it's easy to count the number of tickets we've answered, but we don't have a track of how many hours we spend in Notion per day. So no metrics.
And yeah. Just hold on for the mic.
Oh. Hey, what about the adoption? Because I reckon you create new processes, use new tools, change the pace of things. don't you measure like adoption of those, and how do you, just to measure impact?
Yeah, for certain things or certain tools where we have the analytics provided to us, absolutely, right? So you can measure really quickly, like how many people are actually using Loom, how often are they using it, right? You have that analytics dashboard. But depending on like, are people following a Notion page or the actual process, it's hard to quantify that. You can qualitatively like measure it, right? Because you'll know very quickly like who's following the process or not, or who's preparing well or not for certain rituals or ceremonies that you have. But yeah, again, very dependent on what you're trying to measure. But adoption is another really great initiative, especially when you're starting with a new tool. Like you can have a goal to be like, this needs to be adopted by 70% of the product org. Like that's a really great goal to have. And you could set that as a KR, key result, right? For if you're following OKRs. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that we are trying to, as a team, trying to set our KRs, usually something that can be tracked in the future, right? Like this, for example, we have a very low adoption rate of Jira plans, which is a native roadmap planning tool of Atlassian. And we have a KR, for example, this year to increase the adoption to 100%. That we can track very easily. What we cannot track, as you were saying, like anything that is value-based, anything that's going to make people's life a little bit easier, creating these beautiful guidelines and all these kind of processes and everything, there's no way to track who is actually following them for us. So yeah, I think the trick over there is when you're setting up goals, set your goals up so that they can become a KPI in the future, but no guarantee either.
I'm sure some people are in this situation. How to sell to your boss that you want to build a product operations without metrics showing the value? If someone in the room today wants to go and see their boss tomorrow, say we should build a product operations team to improve what we are doing. How to say to sell it without metric then?
Maybe by having already a list of related things that you want to work on, and you can just show him the added value it will bring. But how to sell it? Smile a lot.
Yeah, I figured. I would say, so I haven't yet had the pleasure, let's call it, of starting a product ops function from scratch. It's something that I would like to do in the future. I've been very lucky that my experience has been, there's already been a product ops team, very small, that I've joined and then helped to scale. But when I've spoken to other people who are also working in product ops, who are maybe starting it, or product managers who are maybe interested in making the switch, I find that many people who don't have product ops in their company are doing product ops without really knowing it, right? Like they're doing it on the side of their desk, and like so many people are just like, yeah, that's me. I feel you. And so I think if you want to take the initiative to start a product ops function, like keep track of everything that you're doing off the side of your desk, right? And you can prove to your head of product or CEO or whoever your main stakeholder is and say like, this is a full-time job, right? Like look at all the things that we are doing off the side of the desk, which is making us less effective as a product manager, as a designer, as an engineer, like whoever is doing these product ops responsibilities, right? And there are ways that you could quantify it. Like if you take your rough hourly rate and how much time you're dedicating to all of these additional, tasks, there are ways that you can quantify it to say like, look, this could equate and you could save this amount of money by just hiring a person to handle this. And that would therefore allow me to focus even more deeply on actual product work and shipping product, and therefore having an impact on revenue. You can make a business case. It doesn't have to be perfect science or perfect math, right? You have to paint the picture and you have to make a business case for it. And I would start there.
I have no answer to this. We have so many operations people. I mean, we have the PTX operations, we have the business operations, we have the banking operations. We have a lot of operational people in N26. All of them does different things, but actually, if you collect all of them, it becomes product operations. That's super funny, right? And we sit in different entities. Like our team is in the product and tech, and then out of us, there's the business, there's a BizOps, does literally exactly what a product operations person is supposed to do, dealing with all the readiness, dealing with all the product analytics and everything that we don't touch, but they do. So I have no answer to this, how to create this.
So I will send you the link of the record so you can share it with your boss tomorrow if you want to to have some content. Okay. Okay. Anything else to add about metrics, KPIs? I've been surprised that we use the keyword AI for the first time after 45 minutes. So I think this is a success in this kind of events for a long time. Maybe we can go over the last topic about cross-team alignment, as you mentioned it already several times. Maybe you have some thoughts you want to share about this?
Yeah. So one problem we faced in my scaling company is that seeing more and more roles that could, if not identified, take over things that we were doing. Like we work now with project managers, deployment managers, product managers, lead product managers. All those roles, they are starting to pop up in our company, and we have each time we work on a new project with them, align on who's doing what. So as Katie said, having a 𝗲𝗲𝗵𝗵𝗫 matrix really helps, and this is something we always ask. And if we don't have it, then we'll see many fields where we are going to cross over someone else's job. But once this set, then it's quite smooth. We are starting to be quite well identified in our company, and if not, then we'll just raise the hand and say, oh, you're planning to train the trainers, this is on me. You're planning the support for the hypercare phase, this is on me. So you just have to just raise your hands when it's on your team to do it. The communication as well, so spreading a bit what you're doing in your team is important. Sharing the product news, all those communication that needs to go out the product team is handled by the product ops mainly in our organization, and having good relationships with all those people, and like making sure you're addressing to the correct audience, using the right wording and everything. This is a challenge we have every day, like to not talking to travel agents like we are talking to our stakeholders. So communication and alignment, yeah, are great challenges that we have.
Cross-team or cross-functional alignment is difficult, especially when you are in a company that is in different entities or in different realities, right? This is my case, for example. So how do you align 1,500 people on the same thing? So I think we took some steps towards that, which is basically creating sources of truth for the entire company, saying that this is the single source of truth for this information, that specific information that you're looking for. One great example is that for the PTX, for example, the headcount, right? We have a super weird org chart. I could show you later on. It's complex, it's messy, it's just, everything is all together. So how do I align our HR recruitment teams versus the teams that actually needs the people? So we created this headcount document where we basically were able to, according to who is assigned to what team, is officially, like, is basically calculating the full-time equivalent of this person, how much capacity that team has as a FTE. And this is, as of today, is go-to document for the HR, for example, when it comes to hiring decisions, because they look at it, they say, oh, okay, over here we have 10 people, but the actual capacity is 7. Over here we have this many backend engineers, but actually the real capacity is half, because these backend engineers is divided into two different teams. They are doing two different projects. So this is basically my suggestion when you're trying to align people, is the creation of these single sources of truth for important things, because otherwise I don't see how it's going to happen.
So when it comes to cross-team alignment or cross-functional alignment, I think, and again, I'm fully biased because my background is in partnerships. And so I think that has really helped me in my role in product operations. And I think one of the most important things in product ops, at least from my perspective, because again, different perspectives here, it are those relationships, right? Because product ops is so fundamentally based in the influence that we have, the behavior change. And so relationships are number one. And so cross-functional alignment, cross-functional relationships that you're building within your role is monumental to your success, in my opinion. So it's really important to put the time and effort into building that trust, building those relationships with not only your product managers, your designers, your engineers, but also different members of marketing, sales, finance, legal, management, right? Like you want to be sort of everywhere. A signal that I know when I'm doing a good job in my role is when people sort of just casually tell me, they'll be like, "Oh, Katie, I see you everywhere." And I'm like, "Good, you should," right? Like you want to sort of be everywhere, and people should know who you are, right? And should know why to come to you. Something that I do strategically when I meet with new people is like I have a presentation deck to explain to them what product ops is. Because many people that I'm working with have never worked with product operations before. So I have like my own like mission and vision. In my last company, I had like a little org chart of my tiny little team. It was great. And then I also had like, these are our 3 pillars. This is where we work. These are my operational philosophies, so that they know exactly what they're signing up for. They know what they can come to me for in terms of question, help. And so I can just sort of clear that all out of the way to be like, this is how I can help you. If you need XYZ, come to me for this. If I'm unable to help you, I'm going to point you in the direction of who can, right? And just sort of be that resource, be that helpful person, and you'll be able to really build trust and create relationships that way.
Great. Thank you. So what do you think to switch to Q&A session? Because you were listening for almost 1 hour, maybe it's time for you to speak up. If you have any questions, feedback for one of them specifically, or if you have wider questions, feel free to just raise your hand and Maya will give you the mic. Yes.
Hi, thanks to the 3 of you for sharing so much about your experience and also your wisdom. There's some really good nuggets here. So thanks. I have a question. So Bora, you inspired me on this question. You were talking about how you've seen, I think, N26, scale and sort of like burst from 300 people to 1,300, and now it's 1,500, right? And maybe Katie and Camille, you've also been at scale-ups. So what has been, from your perspective, the biggest operational challenge when, there's such a burst in number of people and revenue?
I personally wasn't in the at that stage in the company, but I was in the aftermath of it, right? So what happens is that because you are that big now, the production volume increases as well, and while doing that, people create a lot of documentation, people create a lot of things, people start using all the tools that's available, and because it was not scaled up correctly, or let's say there was no guideline to do this, everybody starts doing, yeah, I'll do it, whatever, ship, and we'll figure it out later. What happens? Chaos. And then operations team basically gets started up to basically fix the chaos, because it was a little bit out of hand. Literally, when my boss was brought in, which he came 6 months before I did, it was a complete mess, because nobody knew which team was doing what, who is shipping what, who is responsible from what. There were 3 teams building the same thing because the communication was that bad. So this is basically what happens if it's not prepared for it. Okay, so there was no other comments. I was expecting you to show that.
Hey guys, first thank you for the presentation. It's nice to see that you have all almost the same title, but doing things really differently and assisting different teams. I'm also very surprised that we only spoke once about AI. So maybe we could get back to the topic. So maybe do a round table about how AI is currently impacting your workflow, your team, and to see how do you see the evolution also of your position depending of AI.
I hope product ops will be a job that AI doesn't replace, because we're very like people focused and like that influence again, but we'll see, time will tell. AI, thank you for bringing that up. I was like, can we avoid the whole conversation without talking about AI? Nope. So currently at Yazio, I mentioned like it's a relatively small team, and it's only recently just like hit 100 people. For the longest time it was like under 50 people, and then suddenly they just sparked a new era of growth, and so they've expanded really quickly. And so there are like 2 subsets of people. There are either people who have been there for like 8, 9, 10 years. And then there's other people I talk to. I'm like, how long have you been at Yazio? They're like, oh, 3 months. I'm like, cool, me too. So it's like very new people. And with that, I find that there are some people who are very comfortable with AI and very comfortable with exploring it, using it like daily, hourly, right? And other people are just like, I have no idea where to start, right? Where it's like, what do I even use AI for? And so we're trying to become a more AI-focused company like everyone else, right? And so you kind of have to like start by evening the playing field. And so what we're doing this month, we're starting next week actually, is we're having like, it's so cute. We're having like an AI show and tell. Because part of it is like, you have to make it approachable, right? There's some people who are really comfortable with it, and there's some people who are just like really intimidated by it because they're either afraid to ask, they have no idea where to start. So it's like, how do you create an environment where you can just be like learning, creative, exchanging ideas, and like creating space for that? So we're starting with the product and engineering team to talk more technically about the tooling and how we can integrate that into our daily workflows. And then we're actually going to expand it to the whole rest of the company, and get people talking about it and just like making it a part of our daily conversations, our daily workflows, and then just sort of expanding from there. So that's like a cultural side of it. And then in terms of tooling, like we have it integrated within Jira right now. We're exploring different ways to use Rovo, which is like Jira's AI agent. We have our own internal version of like ChatGPT that makes it more data safe. So we have like agents that people have built, which is cool. So you can just like prototype with that. People are starting to use like Gemini Canvas a lot for prototyping. So I know that like previously at a different company, I was exploring like Vercel, like v0.dev or whatever they're called. But now like Gemini Canvas is basically that, and you don't need to spend more money on that. Like Gemini is just free within our Google Workspace account, which is cool. So we're really focused on like, how can we more quickly, rapidly prototype, and then also like, how can we get more ideation going with the help of AI so that we can A/B test more? Because our team this quarter has like certain goals for quantity that we want to hit. And it's about how do you balance that quantity goal, but with like quality ideas, right? And so we're just helping, or the robots are helping us. And my also thing, just random about AI, does anyone else thank their AI bots? Say like, is that it's just the Canadian in me to say like, thank you so much for your help? No. Thank you. The other Canadian in the audience, Maddie. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I don't say thank you, but I say please.
You say, okay, that's good.
And in our case, we are very lucky because we work alongside tech teams. So we hear about AI every day, and they are here as well to help us if we have ideas. One we had recently, and I've just in the prototype before coming here, was to automate release notes. Very painful job. You have to manually rewrite all the description of each feature. which is painful if you do it. And with AI, we made everything automatic, shortened the description, everything run in pipelines. We don't even see it, and we just have to review it. It's integrated in Notion. We've got a database. Basically, we don't do anything now except reviewing it and adding screenshots. And if we find a way to add those screenshots in the task description one day, we might just click on send, and that's it. So yeah, AI, we are as well on our product team, they create products for travel agents with AI. So we have the chance to have experts of AI with us.
I mean, we don't use really AI as a team, although some operations team does. We use AI on a more let's say day-to-day things like creating cool JQL queries and stuff, because Atlassian does that. Now you can just type it whatever you want. You don't need to know the JQL, and it gives you the badass JQL query that's going to give you literally what you need. So we use the AI on that capacity, but to do our job, no.
Any more question? Yeah. Maybe.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for everything. Very impressive. But my question is especially for you, Katie. At the very beginning, you said that your role in the company is like driving a bus, and you try to hear, what's going on, and you try to fill the gaps. How do you do that in a company with 100 people to hear what everyone is saying and to fill that gap?
I stalk everyone in Slack. That's partially true. I'm lucky that because I'm involved at so many different levels, both like on the IC level, the team level, and then leadership, I am privileged to see a very wide range of conversations, of themes, how people are working. So there's that. So I'm just like naturally included in a lot of rituals. The second thing is just like being very observant in Slack. I also set up keywords in Slack. I don't know if anyone has ever done that. So as a joke, when I was living in Canada, I was working at Shopify, and I set up a keyword for cupcakes and kitchen, so that every time someone posted there are cupcakes in the kitchen, I'd immediately get a ping and then run to the kitchen to get a cupcake before they were gone. So you can do that with like other valuable pieces. Like I have one for if anyone mentions Barcelona, I get a ping, right? If anyone mentions product ops, I get a ping. If anyone mentions something about Jira, right? You can be really strategic. So you get like push notifications. So it's not like you have to be constantly monitoring all of these Slack channels, but you can use like the keyword function in Slack strategically. So that's like a big one, and that actually goes really, really far. And then this goes back to like the influence and trust piece. But once you start to build those relationships, people start to, I find, treat you a little bit as their therapist. So then you get, again, privilege to a lot of information that other people wouldn't necessarily know, but you have to treat that with a lot of respect, right? They're like, with great power comes great responsibility, that kind of thing. So in those different ways, like there's different levels and different viewpoints, let's say, that you can be privileged to have, and therefore you're like a keeper of information. But again, it's that trust building that you have to build up first in order to get to that level.
Challenges. Don't you get overwhelmed? Notifications, etc.
You have to set boundaries, right? Like the focus function on my laptop is great. And then also knowing when to expand your team, right? Currently, I am a team of one. I'm an individual contributor, but my boss the other day was like, so think about your plan of how you want to expand your team. And I'm like, yeah, I'm excited to put that together. So you have to know when like you can't do it all, right? There's only so many hours of the day, and like you only have so much mental capacity before things start to break. So
I think you had the question.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for sharing. It was really interesting to learn more about how you do your work. And I'm curious, like, when do you think, which kinds of organizations would benefit from product operations and which would not yet?
What is your area? Where do you work?
Product management.
Okay, but what, in which sector? Okay. Oof, it's a hard one. I once heard the product operations was created because PMs are lazy. So literally in one of those meetings, yeah, as a joke, obviously, but the thing is that we are here because there is something needs to be fixed. If everything was working perfectly, we wouldn't need to be a function. We wouldn't be there. So I think it's more than in where it works or in where it wouldn't work. It's more like, as long as there's chaos, you need somebody to do the operational part of it. Because people, especially if you're in the product management, or if you're in the design, or you're an engineer coding, you're very much focused on the thing that where it needs to go. But usually you are distracted with all the tiny things that needs to happen in between. And you usually say like, oh, these are small things, I can ignore those. But those small things pile up. And somebody has to organize it, basically. It's like, think it like a guardrail. You go to the bowling, and then they open this kid things. It's basically like that. You try to keep the ball in the lane so that it goes. I think that's my answer.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, you'd have product ops from day one, right? Because there's so many like foundational things that, like silly things like naming conventions or file structures, like that will just help you later on. But realistically, you won't have the business case to obviously have a product ops person, because you need a product team first. So I've heard there's like sort of like a magical number that once you hit, I think it's like over 10 like or 15 and like a product team, that's when you start to think that you might need a product ops person. But it's very dependent on every company. Some companies don't get it until they hit like an insane amount of people, right? So ideally you have it earlier rather than later, just so you can set up those strategic foundations so that ultimately you can help your team just work better, faster, and be stronger, and allow them to do what they do best, right? And then scale.
Yes, maybe two last questions, but then no worries, we will have some pizzas and drinks just to keep going on the conversations. They are not going to disappear. One question over there, maybe? Yeah.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I actually have two questions, but one is basically, how involved are you in prioritization of what the teams work on? So you mentioned before, Bora, like, I think it was you, that you noticed that 3 teams are like working on the same thing, right? So how much are you involved with going in there and saying, well, you know, based on what metrics you're trying to push, maybe, you know, this team should focus, how much are you involved? And the second thing is, if you can share, if there are any kind of influential leaders or people in product ops that you kind of look to for best practices.
Funny enough, very recently at the beginning of this year, my team also took over the portfolio management. So basically, we are now keeping a source of truth, single source of truth for the entire PTX roadmap. So we have in total 21 segments. So we are set up like domain, segment, and team. The smallest is a team, 115 team, I believe, if not more. And then 21 segments, and then 8 domains, right? And we have this prioritized portfolio, which is basically the wish list from the ELT that requires more than one segment to be involved. And this is like the priority in theory. This is what we want to do. But what we want to do might not be the realistic thing that's going to happen in the next 6 months, because our roadmaps are for 6 months. Nobody makes a roadmap for 3 years. I mean, it's not possible, at least in the tech. So what do? We keep the segment roadmaps in line and try to understand their priorities and try to understand how their priorities kind of like matches to the priorities of the top leadership trying to. And then compile all of that. We have a monthly cadence that's called product monthly review, where all the head of engineering, the head of product, directors, the CPO is involved. They start talking about the OKRs, the roadmaps, they talk about the KPIs and everything that's going around, and we listen. And we compile everything. We get the notes, I mean, mostly Marielle, and then we basically communicate this with the entire PTX. And I say, hey guys, this is what we talked about. This moved up, this moved down. We are focusing on this because of this cannot move anymore. I don't know, regulatory things needs to be fixed first and then the other things. Because we are doing this, we are now going to trade off this. So again, is this enough? In my opinion, no. Because when we send this information, they don't say, oh, I'm going to trade off this that my team was working on. Okay, I'm going to stop working on. They don't do that. So it needs to be still a kind of like yes, the communication is done. We compiled everything as the operations, but we still need to make sure that our top down, this information needs to cascade as well to the lower level, so that they understand how this has happened, why it's happened, but our job is basically to align all of this, inform everybody in the same level, basically. And what was the second question?
Also come find me after this because I have more, but off the top of my head, there's Jana Bosto. I'm probably totally butchering her name. She invented like the now, next, later roadmap, and she's based currently in the UK. She's originally from Canada too, which is awesome. She puts on a lot of really great webinars. Chris Butler, he leads product operations in GitHub. He's awesome. Graham Reed has a podcast with, I'm totally blanking on her name, and she's an amazing product ops coach, but I'll get that name for you. Antonia, thank you. Yes, Antonia is amazing. If you don't follow Antonia for product ops stuff, you have to. She's great. Ross Webb is another one. And yeah, there's tons of people. But if you want more, come find me.
I'm only following French guys, only doing French webinar. So I can share the examples, but it's not for the whole population, I think.
Friends, yeah. Okay.
It's not good. It's not a good practice.
Maybe one last question and we can have some fresh drinks. Okay.
Okay, nobody wants it anymore. I will go back to Met. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I'll make my question quick. You know, at my company, we have different processes that are really put in place. People get really excited about it, and they go for it. It gets done, and then it sort of just gets put the wayside. People are less excited. Maybe some people just don't have the buy-in. So I'm wondering if any of you all have any habits or anything, or any other techniques besides, you know, following up on Slack and stuff like that to sort of to monitor the process, to see if it's successful or not, when to change it, when just to forget about it. Yeah, I wonder if any of you had any tips about that.
No, you don't? No, I need to think.
Okay.
So this goes back to being integrated, right, with the teams and being a part of their rituals, or at least having strong connections with those individuals to just have like pulse checks. So I always try to have a regular cadence with certain people on the team as like a check-in, right? Or like maybe it's a therapy session, either one. And that's when you can use those moments to be like, hey, how is XYZ working out for your team? Are you guys actually using it? And when you've built that trust, like they're not going to BS you to be like, yeah, we're totally using it. They'll probably tell you the truth. You'll be like, yeah, maybe, no, it's not working well. And then you dive into that. Well, why? Right? And that's usually a signal to be like, something needs to change. And it's your responsibility as the product ops person to implement and make those adjustments. Because at the end of the day, again, what you're building is for these people, right? You're not building for yourself, you're building for them. So if the process isn't working for them, that's a signal that something needs to change. Because if it was working, then they'd be using it, right? So it's about building that connection, that trust, following up and asking those questions. And if something is wrong or not working, then taking the proactive nature to change it.
I think for the moment for us is working more on the follow-up basis still. I mean, we haven't also put as the core operations team too much processes that's going to need change. We are actually on it right now, right? We would like to this year start and do an entire jury restructuring, like literally scratch it and redo it, and we're gonna see how that's going to work. But we have in our arsenal a couple different people as well. We have our agile coaches. where we can utilize them because they are actually doing all of these sprints and the rituals and all that, and kind of like gain them, like bring them on our side. Now they understand. 3 years ago, they were like completely against, like, no, ways of working, you cannot touch, like, let them do whatever they want to do. I'm like, no, 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 it needs to be a little bit more standardized, right? But now they're in the same place. So bring them in, use them to kind of like coach the teams towards this, because everybody has a different skill set, right? Me personally, I'm not a like a great, like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna walk you through this kind of a person. I'm kind of like a, yeah, let's do it kind of a person. So yeah, for the moment it works as that checkup, and okay, are we doing it? Are we good? Okay, are we adapting to it? Is there any problem? But in the future, the idea is to kind of like bring this into their rituals and make sure that this is like a ongoing process all the time.
Great. I can see Marielle is preparing the pizza, so our panel is coming to an end. But maybe you have a final takeaway for the audience, a final tip you want to share with them to wrap up?
And my main advice would be very simple: is to smile. As we've seen that we have a lot of different. We are in relationship with a lot of people in our company. If you start your speaking, if you start your meeting by smiling and you end it with a smile, you'll always get your answer, and you have more chance of your process to be used for real.
I mean, very simple. If you're a product manager, trust your operations people. If you're operations people, don't be afraid to go for it. It's like, my boss always tells me, and I like that, is like, it's easier to ask forgiveness than ask permission. So if you know something is going to benefit to your PMs, to your teams, and you know it's going to work, just go for it. See how many people screams. If they are really screaming, okay, we can, redo it. We can take it back. But if they're not screaming it, that means that you did something correct, and they are actually okay with it, and they are gonna go with it. So
my advice would be, we're really, really lucky, especially in Europe, that we have an amazing product ops community. So my advice is always to meet with as many product ops people in different industries as possible. Reach out to people proactively on LinkedIn. Book virtual coffee dates and just have a knowledge exchange. Be like, what does product ops looks like at your company? I find it's really, really insightful to see what some people have as their scope versus others. It gives you ideas. It can make you feel more confident to be like, oh, I think I do know what I'm talking about. That's nice, because you're going to doubt yourself all the time because product ops is super new and there aren't always the right resources that you wish you had. Like maybe there's more in product management or design. So my advice is just like to build your network as much as possible, and just be curious and meet with as many people as possible from different industries, because you'll learn a ton. So like Bora and I met at a meetup event. That's how we became friends, and we'll have like knowledge exchange sessions all the time, and it's good. Therapy sessions too, right? Venting sessions really, but yeah.
What does agile coaches do?
So I guess this kind of event is already a good start. Good thing. Yes, cool. So I think the main keyword today was mess or messy. So definitely a project operation has a great value, and you're super valuable and super precious to the company. So thank you again for explaining what you are doing, what could be the opportunity for a project operations team in your company. I hope that you have a lot of ideas now, and maybe tomorrow when you are going to your company, to your boss, you will have some real applications, real things to put in place. Thank you again for joining. I will share the replay and some pictures as well, thanks to Marielle by email as soon as possible. And so I think this is the moment to enjoy pizzas and drinks. Thank you again, and let's have a second.
So we have beers in the back and the soft drinks over there. Pizza is on the table. Self-service. Enjoy.
if you do have to leave us, so sad, just remember on the screen, when you're for the elevator, you just click it and then select 0 and it takes you downstairs. And remember, bathrooms are out there. If you need to get back in, you feel trapped, we'll keep an eye out, but you can always ring the doorbell and we'll let you back in. Thank you so much.